I think another 1 minute's time, we'll go on air and we'll start the program. There'll be more people joining in slowly. Big weekend, so it's a long weekend in India too. Hopefully, people are listening to us either on Facebook or maybe will join later on the YouTube. Can we go ahead now? Can we go ahead?
I'm okay.
Vivek ji, can we go ahead?
Well, yes, sir. We will go ahead. It is live and also in recording.
Okay, thank you very much. So, good evening, everyone, for joining in to this webinar today. Hopefully, it is exactly 7 o'clock, and we have more guests to join in very soon. So we continue with this program. Initially, I will give the introduction of our guest speaker, Ugis Nastavix. Now, we already had one lecture from him earlier, and he gave one lecture on his cultural group, the religious and cultural group. A brief introduction about him. Is a very scholarly figure, and he's the head of a board of the Latvian Dievturība, the religious group. He's also doing his doctorate of Doctor of Philosophy in Theory of Culture, researching the rituals of Latvian Dievturība and Japanese Shinto and the holy places of European ethnic religion. Oh, that's a great job that he's doing, comparing his religion and the group and the culture with Japan. That's a wonderful effort. That's a wonderful effort. Now, I had briefly told last time also about Latvia. This is one of the Baltic countries. Presently, there are 3 Baltic countries, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, but the Estonia is more connected with Finland. They are Finns. But the Latvia, Lithuania, they were part of a very ancient cultural area, a group, which was called Prussia. So let's not compare it, confuse with Persia. Persia is different. That was Prussia. So that was a very big cultural group and area, which had also part of Belarus, Poland, maybe Estonia, and also part of the famous place, the small part, which is one of the Russian part now. So they had a very big cultural group. And recently on 22nd of September, they celebrated 1,500 years of the settlement of their century, which was first established. And they celebrated with the big fun and fair at the castle at Vilnius in Lithuania. And that was a very big event. Now they were constantly been striked by the church forces. I had mentioned earlier there were two church forces armies which were operating from Poland, Germany, was Teutonic Order and the Latvian Order. So the Latvian Order was basically from Latvia, but they were very strong enough to fight back, and you can see how strong they are today, fighting back to revive their culture, very strongly fighting back to revive their culture. Now, the another thing we found is that, of course, many people say that they are very close to the Romans and the Greek. Well, that's a very good thing, but they are very close to Hindus in India too. as we find many gods and goddesses are similar. Their names are matching in many areas. And we find a lot of cultural similarities on festivals and many things. Now, important thing about the today's lecture is this lecture is so important because most of the ancient civilizations, they had different kind of sculptures. The scripts, ancient scripts in many ancient cultures were very different. They have all mostly been destroyed, but luckily there are people like Ugis who are working to their revival. I will give one example of the Celtic people. Some people call themselves also. They have a very ancient language called Ogham, O-G-H-M, Ogham. Now, Ogham is, can you imagine, it's a very sacred language for the Celts. But they also created another language, which was a very secret language, which was called Rune, R-U-N-E, Rune. Now, Ogham is also a language in India. We call it Agam. Now, that's a Agam. There are many Agam Grantha in India, sacred books, which are called Agam Grantha. So the Ogham of Celts and Agam, because the Ogham is derived from the sacred tree, the oak tree. So the oak tree was also a sacred tree of Lord Indra in India. So you can imagine the connection between the Europe and India, the language, name of the language, and the way that being saved and revived by the European ethnic groups. That's a wonderful. And the same job Ugis is doing as far as their language is concerned, their language of knots. So let's hear from him what he has to say about his research work, but it's a great job to do. So please go ahead, Ugis. This is a very interesting topic, and everybody who's interested in ancient languages and ancient history will be very happy to listen to you. Please go ahead. You can share the screen immediately.
Hello, everyone. Namaskar. Very special thanks for Mr. Surendra Mathur and all the Center of Civilizational Studies for welcoming me today, and everyone who is connected now and who will watch the video afterwards. I am now live streaming from Riga, the capital city of Latvia. And so I will start my presentation with the screen. I hope that it is visible now. As Mr. Mathur said, I'm now the candidate of Doctor of Philosophy in Theory of Culture. And so my main scope of the research is not exactly connected with the topic today about the Latvian knot records. However, it is very important in terms of knowing the history and development of our cultural heritage. So, the first thing I would like to note is that there are some historical background points that should be mentioned. The first thing is that after Crusades in the 13th century, a part of Latvian tribes resettled in south. So nowadays it is called Lithuania. And formerly it was one part of the Baltic cultural sphere, which extend from the nowadays Moscow in the east to the southern part, which is nowadays Kiev of Ukraine, The most western part is the nowadays borderline between the Poland and the Germany to the coast of the Baltic Sea. And the northern extent goes up to the borderline between nowadays Latvia and Estonia. So all this Baltic cultural sphere encompasses the area of common cultural heritage, which is visible in both traditional costumes and music and other aspects. So it is interesting that in the 16th century, the earliest Latvian texts are printed in alphabet writing in books. However, the peasants' education in Latvian language and also using the alphabet began since the mid-18th century. So just in 1 century and a bit more, the alphabetic literacy in Latvia rose from 86% in 1897 to 84% in 1920, as it was due to the First World War, which made a lot of casualties. And then in 1925, it reached already 89% of population of Latvia who are able to read and write in alphabetic way. However, in Lithuania, in 1923, there were 33% of illiterates. So those people who cannot read or write alphabetically. Latvian resettlers colony in Vismantai village, which you can see on the top right corner of the screen, they had their first primary school open only in 1920, and it lasted only for 2 years. So the first opportunity to experience the alphabetical education was only in the 20th century. What is more interesting that 200 Latvians lived in Vismante village in 1934, and among 60 library users, 13 could read or tie notes, and parents of 24 more people could do the same, although they themselves couldn't. So it means that more than the half of library users, either themselves, either their parents, could read and tie the knot script. It is known that knot records or knot script are used by Inca people as called as quipu or kipu, and also have traces in many parts of the world. So how the knot script, how the knot records look like? There are some examples. On the top left part of screen, you can see quipu from the Inca Empire. Then on the left bottom part, you can see warazan from Japan. Both of these have been usually used for arithmetical calculations, including such of the taxes which are due to be paid by local people. Then in the middle bottom part, you can see mizuhiki. That is not variant which is used for celebrational envelopes, which are often given even today. And one kind of these knots can be bind in a way that they are easy to untighten. And another way is that they are, if you try to pull them, they tighten even further. And then on the right top part of screen, you can see that there is this Latvian, mezglu raksti, not script from Latvian side. And then there is a theory that maybe Devanagari, known to Indian people, could be also a trace from the not script, not records that are put from the three-dimensional space into two-dimensional space in a new kind of writing that could be originally have been not script. Also, as the Latvian peasants began to be educated using alphabet in 18th century, they had to learn these characters, but they were foreign to them. And if you see the Latvian folk song and other folklore heritage, you can notice that there has been a resistance to the alphabet or to the book or to the reading of such materials. Let's say one of them is such grāmatiņa, grāmatiņa, skreitu elles dibenā, tevis dēļ mani kūla irītos vakaros. In English it would be rendered as book, O book, go to the pit of hell. I was birched because of you, be it morning, be it night. Birching is a kind of punishment when a person is hit by a rod or a birch tool. Then another thing particular connected to the not script or not records is song clue or the yarn ball. In English, there are two ways of naming the thing. Either it is yarn ball or clue. In Latvian, it is dziesmu kamoli. On the top right part of screen, you can see the old logo mark or trademark of the Latvian archives of the Latvian folklore, and it shows a yarn ball or a clue with the capital letters LFK, which denotes the abbreviation of this institution. However, the new logo type doesn't use this song clue anymore. According to many scholars, the first volume of Latvian folk songs called Dainas, although it composes even more than 500 songs about not script and song clues, it is considered that that is just a metaphor. And there are some examples of these songs. Man māmiņa iemācīja dzīvusiet cilpiņās, mīļus vārdus skaistas dziesmas satīt vienā kamolā. Mother taught me to tie the yarn in loops. Kind words, beautiful songs, wind in a one clue. Kuru dziesmu izdziedāju, to satinu kamolā, kad aizgāju tautiņās pavienai ritināju. Each song that I sang, I wound up in a clue. When I went to the husband's house, when I married, I unwinded one by one. Mazi bērni nerātnīši manu dziesmu nicināja, ielikuši vīzītē, pa istabu vizināja. Small children are naughty. They despised my very song, put it in a shoe and dragged around the room. How could you put a song in a shoe and drag it around the room if it is not a material matter? It makes you think whether these song clues are just a metaphor or a real thing. In the said village in Lithuania, which is near to the city of Šiauliai, which has also the meaning connected to Saule, or the sun, which is also one probable place of the battle of Saule, which is now as the Balt Unity Day between Latvians and Lithuanians and other people who are living in the Baltic continent. So in this village Vismante, there was the local historian Jānis Brinķis, and you can see two pictures of him. The right side one is he in 1940, and the left side one is he in the last year of his life in 1987. So he had preserved 3 phonographic Latvian note record systems. And they are Debeka script, which has 11 phonemes in it. So 11 combinations of notes that you put together to make a special sound in the script. Then Brinķis script has 20 phonemes, and Krauk's script has 32 phonemes. What is interesting that Krauk's script uses a single thread and both knots and loops together. Yet Debeka and Brinķis script, they use 2 threads together and put the knots on either of these 2 threads and bind them together. Moreover, there has been discovered also ideographic Latvian note records. However, they are yet to be deciphered. What does it mean, ideographic? It means that not only a sound is symbolized by not a script item or unit, but also the meaning of a word or longer information is also possible to be put in the combination of notes. However, the artifacts are very few, and it will take more time to decipher them. And then another person is wood sculptor, Betija Strautniece, and she has been living in Butnieki village in the northern part of Latvia, and she had preserved the color-wise significance in categorization of note records contents. So the yarn used, the wool yarn used for the recording of information, it can be done in various colors. And she has preserved this information about the categories depending on the colors. So here you can see 2 examples of song clues which contain the note script, note records. And according to Betija Strautniece, you can discern several colors and the usage of them to denote the topic or the theme or the category. So the white color is white color yarn is used for divine. So those who are connected with sacred, with the holy, with the deities. Sunny and light-themed songs or other contents. The green yarn is used for forest, meadow, nature-themed contents. Black for wistful and sad. Blue for children's silly and playful songs. And according to Betija Strautniece, there has been also used the red colored yarn. However, she couldn't recall the exact meaning of contents, but according to other sources, it can be possibly connected with fertility, luck, or well-wishing. And then you can see the table on the bottom side of the slide, which shows the letters, the sounds, and the combination of the knots. For example, one white knot shows the sound A. Two white knots consequentially show the sound O. Then three white knots show the sound U. And one black or dark knots show E. Two of them show E. Three of them show Y. And for example, sound B or B is made by one light and one dark knot, and the sound P or P is made by one dark knot and then one light knot. So the usage of colors is either by lighter and either by darker, and they are combined in a way that you can see on the right side. When there is a white knot, then the yarn is made in a knot, but it encompasses or goes around the other yarn, which is not bind together. So, and if the knot is dark, then the knot is tied by the dark yarn, and it is tied around the lighter thread. On the bottom part of the slide, you can see 4 letters, Riga, which is the capital city of Latvia, and you can see the way how in the knot script it can be tied. So 1 dark, 3 light knots, then take a small space, then 2 dark knots, then open the space, then 1 dark knot and 2 light knots, open the space, and then 1 light knot. What is interesting that apart from using these yarn threads, also there has been used the Cuneiform Script version, which can be used on flat surfaces. And these cuneiform script variants are shown in the same table, just under the rings here. And they are composed by either vertical or horizontal lines combined in a specific way. So here Riga is showed in this kind of way in cuneiform. What is interesting that you cannot find several sounds here, not f and not h, so not f and not h letters, because these letters have never been originally in Latvian language. In Latvian sounds, these two are new ones, which had been brought from foreign origin. That's why they are not among these letters here. However, in case of H or F sound, in Latvian, it is substituted by P sound. So, for example, if you would like to tie your name in a knot script or write or carve it on a flat surface, and you have the H or F sound, you should substitute with the P sound. And what is interesting that these two examples of song clues are photographed by scholar Andris Mičulis in the beginning of 1990s. And all these yarns are very fragile due to the moth infestations. And if moth larvae happen to be somewhere near, then they are destroyed. And that's why these song clues have to be retied, remade along the time in order to make them preserved. So this tradition is often kept in a family among the members or among the clan, and there has been a variations of how the script system is made, but importantly, 3 of these scripts are preserved. So, for example, here the British script has 20 phonemes, 20 types of combinations. For example, this A can also show this sound A, the long vowel. The O can also show the sound O. This can show U and U, E and E, I and E. And also here, the sound can be either C or Ch, S or Sh, Z or J. However, in case of Debeka script, which was introduced in the previous slide here, it has only 11 phonemes. It means that only 11 combinations, and upon each of them there are several variants that can be read by the one combination. So it makes a lot of much misreading possibility. In case of Krauk's script, there are 32 phonemes, 32 combinations, and it means that most of them do not double. Each single combination is for a single sound. However, Krauk's script uses only a single thread. There is a loop and not both usage, and that's why it is useful for people with impairments of sight, of the vision, and also it is useful for a case when it is not light enough environment. So you can tie the knots and read the knots even in the complete darkness. That is the strong part of Krauk's script. However, the Debeka and British script uses 2 light and dark threads. Then about the cuneiform version, here you can see a birch bark box, and in Latvian it is called ciba. This one is made by Kaspars Zvirbulis, and on the surface of the box you can see that there are vertical and horizontal line combinations, which also have the significant meaning. And here this text is having a song in it. Mēs puisīši vismantieši, mēs mācējām mazglusiet, tu meitiņa burteniece, gan mājēsi izlasīt. Actually, there should be gan mācēsi izlasīt. So there is misprinted Y or J with this kind of symbol instead of C or C with this symbol. So there should be 2 vertical lines to make gan mācēsi izlasīt. So the meaning is, we young men of Vismante, we knew how the knots are tied. You, the girl from Burtnieki, you shall know how it's read. Further reading about my discoveries is accessible on researchgate.net. by searching for the not script, the lost writing system of the Latvian language. Then the second part of today's talk is about the sacred scriptures of Dievturība, or Latvian ethnic religion, and these scriptures are called dainas. There is a cabinet of folk songs which has been made in 1880, and it contains more than 268,000 texts, and they comprise the core sacred scriptures of Dievturība. All these texts have been digitalized, and they are accessible from the website www.dainuskapis.lv. Literally, it is the cabinet of folk songs, or dainu skapis. And you can look for the text either by keywords used in the text or by the categories of songs. Let's say there is a category of singing the songs, and within this category, the first part of them is exactly about the song clues, about the knot script, about the tying the knots, and that in that way recording the song in a song clue. And then then there are categories as wedding songs, wedding song part, which is sung in the bride's house, how she is prepared for the wedding ceremony, and how her relatives are lamenting of her departure, and so on. And actually, every situation of Latvian life have a song for it. So that is what is within this cabinet of folk songs, which is actually also a part of UNESCO World Heritage. So it is registered in this list. However, in 2016, there were already 3 million units in the archives of Latvian folklore collected, and 1 million among them are dainas, summarized and published in 14 volumes. Furthermore, 30,000 of folk melodies are also among these units, and it makes a significant number of these Latvian oral tradition heritage which has been recorded. Mostly it was all recorded within the second half of the 19th century. Yet a lot of scholars still continue working on, and the count is advancing year by year. So I'm waiting for the update of information about the archives of Latvian folklore, how many more has been collected in recent 5 years. So here you can see photos of the cabinet of folk songs on the left side of screen. That is how it looks, and it has a lot of drawers, and each of drawer has here is a close-up of one of them. It shows the compartments where on each leaflet there is a 4-lined, usually it comprises of 4 lines, but there are a lot of songs which are much more longer. It is handwritten. There is a number given for the song, and also the place where it was recorded, and also the collector's name and all other metadata is also included in these papers. So you can afterwards find out the distribution of songs of similar lyrics in what regions they are, and are they only a local phenomenon, or they are widely distributed. And on the right side of the screen, you can see volumes of Dainas, which have been published since end of the 1910s and 1920s. And so they are already more than 14 volumes of them. Some people ask how old are Dainas? How old are those texts? And there it is a difficult question to answer, because those singers have added their song lyrics since the time being, and new folk songs come into existence, and then some of them are forgotten, and some of them are kept sung by the next generations. But there is a specific layer of songs that are about the burial or the funeral practices. And some of them are easily understandable for nowadays people. However, some of them show a specific kind of preparation of the dead body, which is not used anymore. And for example, there is such a song like Ko tu nāc nemocīts mūku ļaužu zemītē, ni tev kauli izlauzīti, ne dzīsliņas izstaipītas. Why did you came in the land of sufferers without suffering, nor your bones were broken, none your ligaments were stretched. And the second one, ko tu nāc neražani, ražano pulciņā, tavas acis negrozītas, tavas dzīslas nestaipītas. Why did you came to the ring or the flock or the group of rich people, not being rich yourself? In case of Rajans in Latvian, one meaning is rich, another meaning is abundant, another meaning is someone who has a lot of things, either in terms of wealth or in terms of experience. The two last lines are as nor your eyes are turned around, nor your ligaments are stretched out. So as the first song says that there is a surprise why the person has arrived to the land of sufferers without the bones being fractured, broken. Ligaments are not stretched, so the person is not prepared yet. And in the second song, there is nor your eyes are turned around, so the turning of eyeballs around. So this kind of preparation is exclusively present in one specific time, one specific age, and it is only in late Neolithic period, which in case of Latvia was present from 2900 to 1800 before current era. And these kind of burials are called flexed burial practices. Why should such a song or such songs be preserved out of nowhere if this specific practice would not be intact? So it makes one think about how come these texts are still being able to be collected in the second part of the 19th century. Then, regarding the philosophy of Dievturība, the Latvian spirituality, which is within Dainas, there are several points to stress on. The first one is incentive virtues, such as innate goodness. Then among private, there are cleverness, industriousness, beauteousness, cheerfulness. Among public ones, there are fondness, amicableness, generousness, righteousness, and there is also a godliness. These are all nurtured instead of prohibiting commandments. Then there is honor, shame, conscience-driven behavior, not that of guilt or sin. There is no requirement to congregational affiliation or believing in dogmas. And while mastering one's virtues, one is gratefully aware of blessings of Dievs, or the main sacred being. Then in the photo you can see there is a pusuri, the straw mobile, which is hung from the ceiling, and each of those elements of it rotate on their own. However, when you put a force, if you push one of them, they will convey the motion to others. So this straw mobile shows the interconnectivity of everything in our nature, in our society. So everyone has these bonds with others, and that's why each action makes reaction, and this is a model of how to act in this world. And then moreover, there is now subjugation or submission. Each person is the master of one's own deeds, and therefore Dievs lends a hand, and therefore the sacred wholeness lends a hand or helps. The sacred permeates the profane, and hence the spiritual ecology and sustainability is a self-evident attitude. Recently, a lot of people, a lot of countries talk about the sustainability, sustainable development, and so on. And this is since the ever being a part, an intrinsical part of Dainas. And then there is a familiarity towards deities as a relic from the worship of one's ancestors as tutelary deities. And you can discern two types of Dievturība practices. One of them is privately, and the second one is publicly. Especially during this time of COVID-19, when a lot of gatherings and public events are restricted to some extent, it makes the way of privately practiced these rituals apart from the public ones. And here on the right side of screen, you can see example of Dainas, Latvian folk songs, the sacred scriptures of Dievturība, which are ornamented with Latvian patterns, Latvian ornaments, or Latviju raksti, which each of them have a specific meaning, denoting deity or its ability or blessing or so. And that is an example in the private room, private space, where these lyrics can show a specific virtue to be attained. And lastly, I would like to show you a video from YouTube, which is a song Piedieviņa Garigaldi, one of Dainas. And actually, this video is published by Embassy of Latvia to India, and it was recorded on February 19, 2020 at the third Latvian Indian Choir Festival in Mumbai. So please welcome. The singer is Mrs. Dace Melbārde, the former Latvian Minister of Culture and current member of the European Parliament. And with her, there is a musician and vocal coach, Igita Ozoliņa, playing the instrument. So I will play the video now. Yes, that's it for now. And I would like to answer your questions.
Oh, thank you very much, Ogeshji. Yeah, definitely. There may be a lot of questions, but this is the first time I have come across such a practice of writing songs on with a thread and knots. a very, very interesting topic. Very, very interesting. I'm sure people will have a lot of questions to ask you. We can request the audience to ask questions.
While you are preparing the questions, I will show the example of this note script. I tied my name in it. So this first one is U, the letter vowel U. Then this is J. This is I. This is S. So the four light notes are S. Then N, A. A is one light note. S, T, E, V, I, Ch, S. Udis Nastevich. Yeah, this is how the name looks in this note script. Yeah. So please, questions.
Yeah, please go ahead. Anyone has questions to ask, because a very interesting topic. I think the first time I've ever heard about the notes writing. I remember the other script which was showing the vertical and horizontal lines.
Yeah.
I don't know, but there is a similar kind of, the Buddhist monks, the Buddhists have the wheels where they write their songs on the sacred scripts. I do not know how much it will make, because you mentioned about Japan. So that Japan is a Buddhist country, and most of the Buddhist monasteries also have these wheels, and people go and they just put the they rotate it, presuming that the song is being played and prayers are being sung for the God, the Buddha. So that's that I have seen, but not these kind of songs. That's very interesting. Anyone has got any question? Please go ahead.
Yeah. I have question, if I may.
Please go ahead.
Hello,
Can
please.
you hear me?
Please
Yes.
go ahead. Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
we can hear you. Go ahead.
Hello.
But yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you very well. Go ahead.
Please. If it is hard to do the video, you can try to write in the chat
Hopefully
also.
नेटवर्क इशू, शायद उनका नेटवर्क इशू है, वो पॉज हो गए, स्टिल है.
I think Sandhya ji want to ask a question. Sandhya ji.
I can't hear me.
I can read in chat that won't it be difficult to write long stories in note script? Thank you. Yes, indeed. If you have a long story, then as each of these, for example, here you can see it is Udis, only 4 letters in alphabet. But in note script it makes like 10 centimeters. So of course the text becomes a lot longer, and the yarn ball becomes much more bigger. But usually, according to those witnesses who have been able to read and tie these note scripts, they say that usually not all lyrics were put in the note script. Usually they put the first or 2 these couples of texts, so other parts were already memorized. So also this note script was used for biographical data. For example, some person had some events in life, and these were put like in a list together. Very long stories make it much more bigger data, indeed. I see another question from Sandhya Jain.
I have question.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Please.
Go ahead, Imreji, go ahead. You have a network problem, I think. There is a network problem for Imreji, but anyway, you can write a question. Yeah, in the meantime, Yogesh, you can reply to Jan.
Okay.
Miss Jan, yes.
Okay, thank you. So the question is, so it is good for saving songs, but not stories. I think that rather for songs, rather for some rhymed text which has rhymed endings. Usually our sacred texts, our sacred mythical texts also have this type of putting information not in a not in a novel text, but in a song, in a lyrical text. So indeed, yes, mostly these texts are in a lyric way. Yes.
I want to ask you a question.
Yeah, please.
You pronounce every alphabet of Roman letters or English letters in a way of Hindi patterns, Indian pattern. Just like V, you say va, N, you say na, A, you say S, you say sa. Is it you have any relation with Sanskrit scriptures, or from where you got origin of your alphabet?
Thank you very much. May I put my slide again to show these examples? Okay. So these in Latvian alphabet nowadays we have the same sequence as in English language. So ABC is the sequence as we have in nowadays alphabet. However, in case of not script, in case of not recordings, the sequence is different. The sequence of these sounds come from the phonetical or phonological characteristics. For example, A, O, U, all these three sounds, they retain a similar shape of mouth. That's why in the not script, they also have a similar notation. E, I, Y, all these three are made in a similar way by our mouth cavity. B and P are the same, only the difference is whether they are voiced or unvoiced. D and T also voiced or not voiced. K and G also. So M and N are also similar in the phonetical way. That's why the sequence here is based up the phonetical characteristics, not based upon the nowadays English or other alphabetical sequence. This sequence, as you can see it here, it has been independently developed by this not script itself. It has not been taken from any other ready alphabet or so. I hope that I answered the question. There is also a question in the chat by Sandhya Jain. What was the logic behind the not script? Was there any persecution of the Latvian people which made your ancestors decide to hide their language and memories in this secret way? That is a very interesting question. I would answer it in this way. Usually, the book introduction and the alphabetical education introduction in Latvia was done together with Christianization policy. So these peasants' schools in the countryside were made on the same time when the Bible studies and Bible recitation started, and alphabet itself became as a tool for bringing people to the enlightenment of the Christian sacred scriptures. So in that way, alphabet was a way of indoctrination, not only a mere educational tool for literacy, but for the religious literacy in terms of Christianity. That being said, it also was the reason why people showed the resistance to books, to printed books, which are done in alphabetical way. And that's why people tend to keep their records in a way that are not done in alphabetical characters, in some different way. One of these were memorizing the lyrics by memory, so oral tradition, keeping the texts not written at all, so denying the alphabetical writing as it is. And the second way was this not scripts, not records, which were kept already at least since the 13th century, when after the Crusades, one part of Latvians went to Lithuania, and in this Latvian colony in Vismante village, it was still used in the 1930s. On everyday basis. So yes, I would say that there were persecutions, and there were persecutions made on the religious basis, and alphabet was a tool for religious literacy, and local peoples showed this resistance. There is a question. The Christians were the Russian Orthodox Church or Catholic Church? I would say that both. It depends on the region of Latvia where you are. If it is eastern side, then rather the Orthodox, and if you are on the western side, then it is rather Catholic Church. So it depends on the region. However, the strong point of the not script is that even if somebody, some intruder, comes into your house and finds these not script examples, the person couldn't read it. It was not accessible to strangers. So they may destroy the house, they may burn these song clues, but they cannot access the information. It is the same as the memory of the person's mind. He can reveal it, he cannot reveal it. It depends on the person, but these yarn threads are mute. They do not reveal anything. But alphabetical text, if you get them, then if you get a translator, then you can access them. But here it is much more difficult. Please, more questions.
Yeah, Imreji, go ahead. We can see you. Go ahead. You can ask question. Imreji, can you hear me? Or you can type your question.
I think his network is not working properly.
Okay. So
we can conclude. No, there is a question, I think, in chat box. Oh, no. The speaker has written, please feel free to type your questions.
Okay.
We can wind up, Mathur sir.
Okay. Okay, Raviji, we will wind up. Okay, thank you very much, Ogesh for this wonderful lecture. It is really great to hear you about this kind of preserving your secret culture and tradition in the form of songs and notes. It was wonderful. It was I never had heard about it, and I think it can also be used as a secret language even today. Even today, this can be used as a secret language, I suppose. And as I mentioned to you earlier, that yeah, we do hear about on the Buddhist monasteries. They have the wheels, which is you swing them, rotate them, and the prayers are written on them, and people feel that the prayers are going to the God. But obviously, the script is different. So thank you very much for this wonderful lecture. Once again, I thank you, Obisji. We'll have more such lectures from Latvians. Thank you, everybody who joined us today. Namaste.
I would like to thank everyone who could find the time to connect. And also I would like to know more about the origins of Devanagari script of India, and if there is a connection between the note records and the shape of Devanagari letters today. That would be also interesting topic to follow on. And yes, I wish you good health for everyone. And I hope that we can meet in person. And yes, very, very big gratitude to every one of you. Namaskar.
Namaste.
Namaskar.
Thank you.